Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. I have with me my friend, the incredibly smart, the incredibly brilliant Dr. Christy Gilchrist. Christy, welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Christy. Thank you so much. Is it still morning? Where are you?
I'm in Washington State. In Pittsburgh. Yes.
Oh, this is early for you then.
Yeah. Okay. It's the Pacific time zone.
Okay, fair enough. I am on the East Coast, so for me, I was like, it's just past morning, but there we go. So, Christy, before we get started, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, my name's Christy. I am a researcher turned to the dark side of research administration. So I started out as a statistician and research designer, and I found out that I was also really good at adding all the other pieces to support research, whether that be IRB applications, IACUC, putting grants and budgets together, then turning to the other side of putting the reports together for grants and contracts, being able to put presentations together, all the above to start adding all the pieces to help subject matter experts become successful in any of their research endeavors.
So it's funny you say that, because that is exactly what you're doing. You're actually building a program right now. Yes. So do you want to talk a little bit about your journey to building this program and what it's sort of looked like so far?
Great. So here at Central Washington, they have had a primarily undergraduate research institution with a research and sponsored programs office. And where they were, they had a research program, which was fairly robust. And they had a lapse in leadership that occurred right before COVID. And as with any program that went through COVID, there were a lot of struggles trying to keep up and with staffing issues and lack of students on campus and everything, having to focus on the main focuses of the undergraduate institutions. Research wasn't as thriving as it had been. It finally got to a point where we were back up and running and needed a leader again, and that's where I came into the picture. I do have a background in university research administration. I started 20 years ago at Washington State University, which is a Research One institution. I've also been in the nonprofit background and a hospital background as well for research administration. But at this time, it just lined up well for me to be in this area. And I get to learn more about the needs of the primarily undergraduate institutions and how to build this program.
So it's kind of interesting to me, right? This idea that you are, you've worked in a large academic institution. You're now sort of building one. What do you think are the biggest differences you're seeing? Is it like one of the things I've always seen with large academic institutions is this idea that research almost serves as a loss leader, but it's worth it because of other things. Are you seeing more and more, like in your case, why did they decide that they want to re-engage in research and make it a priority?
Well, certainly there's the need academically for professors. They really need to have that as a part of whatever they're doing. You know, the education isn't just teaching alone. So it's really important to have that aspect, in their tenure in what they're doing. We don't want to just teach. We need to expand what we know and what we're teaching. So, that's just one of the major aspects of learning and teaching is advancing what we know.
So it really was like a groundswell is what you're saying. Like the professors were saying, we need access to this.
Yes. And, so there was also continuing activity. So they did have enough support of the resources that were there to continue what they had in place. And yes, it was a groundswell. They just had an increase in activity and needed more support.
Now, do you know if research is required to maintain any kind of accreditation or anything, or is that not a required element?
It's usually required for tenure. So maybe not necessarily accreditation, but definitely for tenure.
Sorry, I should have been clearer. Accreditation of the university. I didn't know, like, for example, on the East Coast, we have like middle states and stuff like that. And I didn't know whether, I have never looked at the requirements, but I assumed that some of them may require some element of research, or is that not true?
That I don't know, actually. I'd have to look into that a little bit further.
Fair enough. So you got called in and they were like, we need Christy to actually help us build this program. Where do you start? Because I mean, you're talking about 2 years, almost 3 of not enough sort of leadership. And now you're coming in, you're building those building blocks to structure this. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think just, so I've been meeting with the college deans and the chairs and figuring out where the low-hanging fruit is. So obviously there are really active researchers. There are also projects that would be in place had there been support. So it's obviously a chance to get that going. I've been attending some of their meetings, their faculty meetings, to be able to say, hey, I'm here. What do you need? So what I've been hearing as well is that, there's need for training. Here's how to do a grant application. There's all sorts of opportunities to provide the support that they're saying that they need. So it's really listening and getting out there and saying, all right, I can put all these trainings together, but if it's not what they need, then, we just need to be responsive and certainly be out there and ask them what they need. I can make all sorts of assumptions and it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? I think that there are 2 possible schools of thought, and the first school of thought is you start by building the pillars of research. You start by doing all these different things, and the response would be, that's great, you've done all of that, but no one wants to buy into it. And what you're sort of saying is, it's easier to attract bees with honey than with vinegar. Start with the honey, start with the low-hanging fruit, and then get people in, and then we can start building those pillars. And that's not to say that you aren't building the pillars already, but it's not the noticeable part of what you're achieving in front of people.
Well, I've always, I guess it's always been my approach to say, this is their research, this is their passion. How can I support them? Certainly that's my passion. I've been building all the tools, and to see them succeed is wonderful to me. So I think that's it's always been something that I really enjoy is when something gets off the ground, or if someone gets that grant, or so it's kind of a really weird niche in the world, but it makes me really happy.
Which is awesome, but it's kind of funny because you said that you saw this as the dark side.
Yeah, I know. Because I never thought that university administration was going to be where I wanted to be, mostly because of the tenure tap dance. Just seeing all the hoops that they had to go through. Um, uh, I actually am really enjoying it. There's been a lot of support in the university. But yeah, I lovingly call it the dark side.
So you've now reached a point where you're trying to build those initial sort of olive branches to connect with the different stakeholders. Who have you identified? I don't mean individuals. I mean more. Do you tend to focus on the life sciences? Do you tend to focus? I know you and I have had conversations about non-life sciences conversations you've had. How do you identify? Because you're not just at that point doing research, you're doing innovation, if you will, for lack of a better term. So how do you sort of balance and figure out what the new metes and bounds of your organization are?
So I know that there have been, so I went to a dean's meeting, and so that encompasses, all of the areas, not just the life sciences. So I put it out there. I'm like, we are hoping to support anyone who wants to do research. So I've heard some feedback that, in general, they don't feel like they are supported, or that, that they have the same resources as any of the other departments. So I just want to make sure that they know that they have everything, all the resources and whatever they need, including my interest, to support them. So I think for me, just getting it out there that, I have this passion and interest in supporting them is a very good start. And it just so happens that with my degree, I also have qualitative research background. So you don't have to be in the hard sciences in order to do research, right? So you can be in the softer sciences and do that type of research, and it's valid and it's supported, and we can find a way.
So you are helping these other departments. You're talking about the softer sciences, if you will. For those people who struggle with what that means, what do you mean by the term softer sciences?
Oh, so it could be arts and humanities, right? So sociology, anthropology, right? So there are several ways that we could support them where they didn't think that they had the support that any of the like life sciences or geology, which are big in our organization.
So that's interesting, right? Because most people think about drug research, or they think about life sciences research. What are the challenges with helping administer a sociology study or a psychology study? Because you still have human intervention, but it's not the same sort of balance, checks and balances. So talk to me a little bit about how you're going through that analysis, because there are stakeholders who obviously want the support.
I'm probably just getting them through the IRB process and knowing how to get through those ropes and setting up the protocols appropriately and consent when it's appropriate. So if they really haven't done a lot of research in that area, that's probably the biggest area of concern, that we have a great infrastructure to support them. We have good human subject research.
So you find yourself doing more of the mechanics of it. Is that go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So just being able to I personally identify that need and hand them off to the right resource. So, yeah.
So how does it work, for example, when you're doing human subject research. What if it's a retrospective study on something they've already done? Do you need an IRB consult? Like, do you help with that part of it as well, which is when are they subject to the same rules? When are the rules different? How do I know? Who do I talk to?
Yeah, so if those come up, we have someone who, a human subjects research administrator, who really does the heavy lifting on that. I used to do that. In fact, I put an IRB together and got AHARP accreditation for it, but I don't want to take over and step on toes there. We do have the resources, and if I did that for everything, I'm taking away from what else I could be doing, right? So we'll just use our resources appropriately and make sure that we're making the most of everyone's talents. So,
and how big is your team right now?
Right now we have one grants and contracts coordinator, and we have one human subjects administrator, and the grants and contracts coordinator also handles our IA cook. So it's tiny.
So you have, it's your grants coordinator, and your human research protection officer. Mm-hmm. Do you find yourselves being spread too thin, or is it more choosing the battles you're going to fight while you're getting everything else together?
So right now it was a little spread too thin until I came on board. A lot of the applications we know are about a quarter of them, maybe at most, are going to be funded, right? So it's not too much right now, but if we really get moving on it and have a lot more, we're really going to need to add to our team.
And how do you identify success for yourself as a group right now?
Certainly, if we can get a few more funded, that would be great. But right now, getting more faculty engaged and getting more applications so that they can get that experience. I think it takes 6 or 7 grants before you get funded. So that takes a lot of patience. That takes a lot of effort on everyone's part before you can really land that grant.
So each of these faculty members are sort of going through that learning experience as we speak, and they're trying to figure out what works for them. You've already started attending a lot of these meetings. Talk to me a little bit about your top, 3 things that you're now eager to hit that are going to help you build the research infrastructure for your university at this time. And obviously things change and all those good things.
Probably grant writing support. So I think there's a lot of ideas that are floating around, and a lot of the departments don't have the grant writing support within them. Some of them do because the faculty are a little more seasoned, especially in the grant writing area. Some of them don't. So, if I could build that within the university. So what I am doing right now is kind of assessing, who has what strengths that can at least lend to that. So we do have some writers. Are they grant writers? No, but they can write well. Not everyone who has the grant idea, they're the subject matter experts, are necessarily the greatest writers, right? So, I'm finding different areas of expert. There's someone on campus who puts data plans together really well. I was really surprised to find that, so I'm finding some expertise and seeing what we can leverage. So, I'm finding surprises here and there, and that's really great. And see what we can do to make this a team effort and really grow this program.
So what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the first one is grant writing support. The second is finding internal resources. What's your third one? Did I miss it?
We have everything in paper right now. It's
Sure.
not all of it, but so I think it was 20 plus years ago, when I was at Washington State University. A friend and I helped make the grants office, the pre and post award go electronic. We actually put a database together, and it may have changed by now, but we won an award from the president's office for making that go smoothly. And it was a lot of fun. I like doing things like that. So, I had to learn database design. I had to learn a little bit of coding, and just so I could figure out how to talk with him about how to make it all work and understand the process. And so that's kind of how I learned a lot more about interactions between pre and post award, and what needed to be coordinated, what needed to be reported on, and so on and so forth. So I'm kind of glad I took on that project. So yeah.
So let me ask this question. So one of the key things that's happening right now that everyone's talking about is the importance of diversity in clinical research, and the importance of it being built into the very DNA of the program itself. And there are two ways to do that, right? The first way is you build it as the program is being built. The second way is the program's now stable. Now we start building and ingraining diversity as a core component. I feel like a lot of people have a lot of sort of opinions about how things should be done. You're on the ground floor of building a program. Are you able to, from a pure time management resource perspective, ingrain diversity as early as now, or is this a important goal but needs to come as you start developing the foundation?
I think it's kind of a mix. I don't know if that makes any sense. So at some points, you just need to build some of the infrastructure, and but not leave any of the diversity too far behind. And sometimes you can focus on the diversity side of it. And I think it's just kind of scaffolding at that point. But there's so much that needs to be done in making the relationships for the diversity side of things. So I know one of the things that we're working on as an institution is we have a high Hispanic population in the area, and we're working on becoming a Hispanic serving institution, and we're getting close. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and we are also in Indian country in the middle of Washington State. So, I am Native Alaskan. I have a vested interest in the Native nations in the area. And so, there's a lot that we can do to reduce some of the concerns about participating in research. I think that's the biggest thing is the wariness of what research is and what it does. I know that's one of the thoughts that I had. I was in Wisconsin for a while, and there was a presentation on basically DNA and representation in clinical trials and what that could mean, right? And so what happens if there isn't representation in the clinical trials and all the side effects that they just aren't aware of? So once you look at those labels of what the side effects are and whether it's working or not. And if there's no data on that population, you just don't know what it could be, right? And so, is it as effective? Are there, problems that we're just not aware of for that population, just because there's so little participation?
I love it. We can keep going, Christy, but this is fascinating, and I wanted to sort of. I know this is the start of your work day, so I don't want to take too much of your time. But before we go, any parting words?
I think research programs are amazing. The aspect for the undergraduate institutions, I'm really starting to enjoy it. I really think being able to incorporate expanding what we know and how we learn is really important for our students. It's a high impact practice that we're really trying to implement across the university.
Yeah.
So I am really enjoying the fact that it's valued. Research is valued highly here. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm enjoying it here so much. So, but I just thank you for letting me be a part of your day.
Absolutely, and thank you for coming on.